As you probably know, the Absolute Solver has a very interesting and powerful ability, which is the Null, which appears to act in a similar matter to a black hole, at least in appearance and performance. But I always find strange the way they affect the world around him. And after the last episode, I think I managed to discover the truth about the Null and Murder Jones. Well, as I said at the beginning, the Null has a very similar appearance to what a representation of black hole is, as well as being used to destroy and absorb things around him. If it really was a black hole, this effect, the smaller one that we ever see during the series, the one on the end of episode 2, would be enough to completely destroy the planet and all of the others around him. Well, one thing I did notice when I was editing the video was that at no point I did explain the Null's relation with what happened to the Jones when they had their core destroyed. So I decided to explain here to avoid future confusion. And when the core is destroyed, like what happened at the end of episode 2 or to see after the fight on episode 8, and by the way I'm talking about Solver Jones cores, and this was part of the thing that helped me find a relationship between the Null and the cores. And the moment that Sim core is destroyed, it starts to transform into a form that is really similar to a Null, and only difference between the area around, instead of being yellow like the Nulls created by Sim is white, and this area that is a Null appears to affect the world around him, but not within this Null himself, which is one strange characteristic of this. And this is probably a mechanism used by the Solver to protect against the sun, which case she got exposed, and because the sun is the only no weakness to the Solver. And because when it creates this type of Null, the area inside is complete blackout, shows that this is really just a good protective measure in case she get in contact with sunlight. And this is just created by Sin as a great countermeasure to save her in this one occasion that this happened. On the case, Uzi simply just eat the Null of her, and this is just like destroy her. And this appears to be the only way to destroy, or rather contain, a Solver Drone. And the Null, like you can see, is the base of the core of the Solver Drone, which is probably where the Solver used to store information and transmit info between the infected drones. Like we have the scene where Anne's asking Uzi how does Jay get the information from the other place because she didn't have the communication. That's probably the reason, because it's using the Solver connection, and the Null is the base of this connection. And with this small interruption, let's go back to the original explanation. And this just starts to escalate much further through the series, even more so when you get to the ones that completely destroy Earth and the one that sent from Copernic. That if they were really black holes, they would not only the Earth would be completely gone and would be nothing beside the black hole in place, but also probably the complete solar system would be absorbed by that. And the same is applied to the Copernic system. And before I say what I think the rule really is, I'm gonna give an explanation about what black holes are and how they work and how they affect the world around them, because I'm not just gonna go here and say, oh, the Null is not a black hole, trust me guys. Because, you know, I prefer to give a foundation to my theory, and that will make more sense for you, and you will understand what I'm really talking about, than just say, bro, trust me, it's not a black hole. But have said that, I'm gonna start explaining what is a black hole. To start, black holes have different sizes, which could vary from the size of a football to the size of a whole solar system. But for the purpose of this video, the size won't be really that relevant. And they are formed from the depth of a massive star that occurs when the balance that keeps their star stables are broken. And their stars remain stable because of two forces. One of which is the gravity, that because of the mass of the star is overwhelming, and because of this enough to create fission inside, which fission the elements inside the star. And this energy is the other force, which is created by the fission of helium, which is what is used as a fuel for the star, and this is what leaves the star in the state of balance during its life. But the fuel inside the star is not infinite. With this information, you must already notice the problem that over time the force of gravity that will be generated will be greater than the force of fusion of the helium, and with this the helium on the center of the star start to compress and turn into carbon, and after the carbon it start to turn into nylon, and after nylon start turning into oxygen and silicon, and after that it starts to melt and turns into iron, and the iron is not efficient at all with its energy use, and that's why it gets trapped inside of the star and starts growing the amount of iron. And because of this, the delicate balance inside the star starts to tilt to the side of the gravity, and when the energy is expanded, the gravity starts to gain, which causes the collapse of the stars. And because of the mass of the star, it gets compressed into a small ball, and the energy that ricochets out of this compression is known as a supernova, and is one of the strongest explosions possible on our universe. And what's left after that that could be one of two things. The first thing is a neutron star, and form when the explosion is relatively low. It's still a supernova, so it is a massive explosion, but it's not as strong as the one that when generate a black hole. And small ball of matter that is known as a neutron star with a maximum of 25 kilometers in diameter, and for all of those freedom language speakers is 16.8 miles, which is still very large, but in comparison to what a black hole can be, is small, and which is extremely compact with a mass that can be upwards to 1,000 times of Earth. But for the explanation of this video, this will not be relevant. But in the case the explosion is strong enough, the physics as we normally know is breaking and a black hole is generated, which has a very large mass in a very small volume, which on the calculation that is used to discover the density of an object, the denominator of the mass of the black hole tends to go to 0, which makes the density tends to go to infinity, which scientists call the singularity, which is not the same singularity event in the murder drones, but I'm gonna talk about more about this later. Well, the singularity of physics emits force capable of distorting both time and space, and that's why it's such a big difference from the rest of physics. They can be better explained with the Albert Einstein theory of relativity, which I'm going to give a brief explanation because otherwise this video will turn into a physics lesson instead of a murder drones video. And have said that, the theory of relativity is closely linked to gravity and perception. And an example of this is, if you are in a closed room with no windows in space, but you have a rocket accelerating you to a certain speed, the gravity force that you will feel inside would be equal to the one of Earth, which makes it impossible to differentiate between a completely closed room on Earth and one on space. You know, if you take all of the noise and stuff like that of the rocket engine. And this is the base of idea, inertia, which says that an object don't tend to move on their own, and if they are moving, unless another force applied to them, they will keep moving. If you want an object with a mass to act in a different form than is what it's doing at the moment, another force must be applied to him. Otherwise, we will continue at the same state. And a question must have arrived in your mind is, why the person in a room feel the same force as a person on Earth? And the best way to understand that will be with an example like those spinning rides on an amusement park. That when you reach a certain speed, you start to feel your weight being pulled into the side, and this happens because your inertia wants you to go straight, but the shape of the toy prevents you to do this. This is one of the main reasons that Einstein realized that acceleration along the curvature path was the best way to explain gravity, and which is that the matter and energy cause a deformation of space around it. And the best representation that we can use is if you place a ball on an extended fabric, which causes a curvature of the fabric, and the same is applied on a large scale. And this is the principle behind the gravity. If the mass is large enough, will generate a curvature. And we know this since this on space, when you go close to a planet, the gravity well, or the curvature of the gravity of the planet affects and attracts anything close it. And if the object has enough mass, this curvature turns impossible to escape from it. And this is the principle of how black holes works. Because they have such a big mass, the gravitational force of a black hole is absurd and it's impossible to escape at a certain point. And any of the black holes seen in murder drones would be at least capable of destroying copper-9. And we can assume the small one that we saw during the end of episode 2, let's just assume it's like 10 centimeters, which is a more conservative measurement because I'm not feeling really to use pixels to calculate the exact size. I could do that if you guys want me to do a small short for this, but I'm not really feeling up doing this right now and I'm kind of short on time, so I will do it if you guys ask me. But let's place 10 centimeters on this website here, right here, to calculate the size and mass of a black hole. And with this, we can see that a black hole this size has more than 11 times the mass of Earth and will be definitely strong enough to destroy copper-9 and suck like matter for thousands from millions of kilometers away, which might be enough to get the other planets around as well. It's just a distance that would be like almost impossible to escape, because when we get to the event horizon of the black hole, which is the distortion around it, is when it's get impossible to escape. There's not even like the fast thing on physics can escape that because of the imaginable gravitational force inside of that point. And this is what makes black holes so dangerous and destructive. And we can never have matter leaving a black hole. All they can do is just have getting in the black hole. And this is the principle where black holes works.
Shimmy, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah. Right. La la la.
Well, after giving you guys a brief explanation about black holes, and if you want some more information, I will put in the description of the video the links I used to research more about. But just quick advice, most of them are going to be in Portuguese, but if you speak Portuguese or if you go for the ones that's not in Portuguese, I would highly recommend to watch them. We can see that the Null in murder drones have a property similar to a black hole, except a very important part, that is the gravitational force, which is the most important part for a black hole. The only moment anyone could say that the gravity is being affected by the Null is during episode 8, when Jay even talked about that. But it's more likely that the gravity was because of the planet's own gravity affecting the piece that was ejected into space than the new gravitational force. And we can see in several scenes that appear during the series, such as the episode 7 fight, that the Null does not affect the world around them except the immediate area of creation. And the only scene that could raise doubts about that or even contradict is during episode 6, where we can see Sin and Uzi body create a Null that pull the Sentinel in and generate matter at the same time. The solver makes it appear that it's generating or transporting matter to it. Is a thing that, as I explained it, a black hole will never be able to do. With this in mind, I come to the conclusion that Null is a mean of teleportation, or better said, a wormhole. And you must be asking, what is a wormhole? A wormhole works on the same principles of relativity, but instead of curving the space, he folds the space and makes a shortcut between one point to space to the other. With the most interesting thing about it, they have a very similar appearance to a black hole. In this, I have explaining many things about the Null. Since instead of generating matter, a black hole is the best way to explain that the solver is just transporting this matter through it. And the ability of teleport of the solver is another thing that can be really easily explained by wormholes. That is using a small wormhole to create small jumps into space. And this is one of the reasons why it might have the codes appearing every time we're gonna have teletransportation of the solver. It's the moment that is doing the calculations to be doing the correct point for the teleport. To open a wormhole in the specific point that they want with the maximum efficiency. And this also helps to explain why Earth was not completely erased, and because it's a portal instead, it could also lead to the show that Earth was a central point of the solver infection because it was the most well-placed point for connecting to the solver infection place. That could be a point of interest for a possible second season of the show. It could still happen if they want. And the solver will be an infection that comes from extremely distant planet or even from another dimension. The second one is more of a throwaway to see if it works, but due to physics, that can actually be a thing because wormhole is one of the ways that physics can explain a port to another dimension. But that one is just more, oh, might be for another dimension. You know, it's not really, yes, it's definitely for another dimension. And the solver is actually a form of life that corrupts as a parasite the system of the drones. Because every time that a solver appears, he's kind of connected to beast form, not a beast form, but more of a abomination form with organic matter. And that's pretty odd for an AI. And that helps to explain why Sin and it has the different control of the solver than all of the other solver drones, because she has the solver for the longest time and a better understanding of the solver. So she can easily calculate and do the correct way and where to open the Null to have the best effect for what she wants. For an example, Sin's using the Null when she's fighting. The Null is completely pure and doesn't generate any byproduct when she doesn't want, like the solver matter. Different than when Uzi and Doll are using the solver for the first times, where we can see that they start to generate the solver matter around. And that probably help accelerate the corruption for those drones too. And that happened because they don't have the complete control of the solver like Sin has the drawing all the time that we see on the series and Uzi kind of has on the end. And with this we can still see too that we don't really know the full extent of the power of the solver, because during the show we only see mostly small glances beside the destruction of Earth. That is a pretty big power scale point right there, and that she joined the fight against Uzi on episode 8. Not only Uzi, but Uzi, V, and N. She's more playing around with them than actually taking the fight serious. And if she really wants to just finish with that, she could just only open a wormhole to kill all of them. And that's another thing. If she's doing those singularity events in the planets, is because there must be a reason, because not only for destroying the planet, because if that was the case, you would just wormhole the whole planet and destroy it, but the singularity event, because of the things that she even says, seems like it's more of a way to get matter and feed the solver than anything else. Because even during episode 7, we can see that she is talking that she always is hungry and she kind of wants to eat, and the singularity seems like it's consuming the planet apart, the essence of the planet, or just the planet itself, for get more matter the solver and eat the solver, which shows that the singularity event is used for two main reasons: to spread the solver corruption and to feed the solver itself. And the obvious third one that is intended to destroy the planet life and everything there. And with this, I kinda left my theory and analysis of what I think the new is over here. And it was my first time doing a theory and anything, so if you have any things they want to ask me, I gonna reply to you in the comments, or any constructive criticism. I would really appreciate it. And have said that, I have something I want to say before I start ending this video. That is that I have watched several channels for doing this analysis, to have a better understanding of black holes and more in-depth knowledge. I still just know just the basics, but those channels help me a lot, and I'm gonna put all of them in the description of the video, but most of them are gonna be in Portuguese. But still, they're really good. If you speak Portuguese, or if you go for the ones that are not in Portuguese, I would highly recommend you watching. And have said it, I hope all of you guys have a great day, and I see you guys the next time. Bye!